men. Astute, Spencer. I can see why they call you Astute Spencer. Oh, you're so funny, guest. You've got me more excited than 15 snorts of Dennis Hopper's premium party powder.
I won't have this namby-pamby wishy-washy nonsense, and I'm not hitting people who deserve it.
Gabe, if you were any more on the mark, you'd be an Olympic-level archer with an Accuracy International Arctic Warfare Magnum.
Can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. F*** it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Fantasy Files live show. We are your co-hosts, obviously, Spencer and Gabe, and today we are joined by David Roome, who I met through watching Periapsis Press. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But what's up, everybody? Welcome to the live show. This episode is going to kind of replace our usual weekly podcast episode, and it'll be a numbered podcast episode just like all of our others, but it's just a live stream. Someone here is very excited for David Roome. Welcome, Patrick. But today we are going to be talking about AI in the writing space, in the writing community, in the industry. And, as it becomes more and more prevalent and the AI gets smarter, there's some pretty serious implications for what it means for industries in general, first of all, but also specific to the writing and art industries. It's going to play a huge role in the coming years, and it's only going to become more and more important to talk about it and take a look at, if there's any restrictions that need to be put on it, because it can be used for all sorts of things. Some things very good and some things very bad. So we're going to dive into that a little bit in this episode, or not a little bit, a lot in this episode. But yeah, I guess housekeeping out of the way, if we're doing that, you can reach out to us on Twitter, which is linked in the description. Also our Discord, if you want to join our little community over there. It's slowly but surely growing, and we love chatting with you guys over there. You guys are going to be participating in the live comments, which I really appreciate. Please remember to like the stream. Even if you're watching this later down the road, please like it, because it'll get it seen by more people. Nova's here. What's up, Nova? How are you doing, Nova? So yeah, and then also our Patreon. If you want to hang out with us live as we record episodes, you can join our Patreon at the Mistborn tier, and you don't have to wait weeks for me to edit an episode. You just get to watch it live and talk with us as we discuss certain books and topics and stuff, and you get to be a part of that. We've had whole discussions spawned off of people participating in the live chat on those Patreon episodes. So please come join us. We'd love to see you there, and we really appreciate the financial support as well. Yeah, Nova's melting in this heat. Yeah, I feel you. It is 103 degrees
Oof.
for me today where I'm at, and I would not be surviving right now if I hadn't just gotten an AC unit. Like I
Yeah.
literally like days ago, like 3 days ago, I got an AC unit, and that's the only thing keeping me alive right now. So yeah, let's introduce our guest. We have David Roome here, and we kind of, or at least I found out about you through your wife, Katie. She's been on our show once, maybe twice, maybe
I
a couple
think.
times, yeah. And there was one night where I was watching you guys were both doing a live stream on the Periapsis Press channel about some video that had gone viral. And we were, I was kind of in the live chat and following along with you guys. And I was like, I don't know if we have the same take on this thing, but I'm like, I really like David. I'm like, he's super cool. He just seemed like a really fun guy. And I put in the chat, I was like, David should come on our show. And you and Katie were like, yeah, we could figure that out.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm glad you're here. It's been fun, talking to you over Twitter for the past few weeks and getting to know you a little bit and finding out, what kind of stuff you do, what kind of like media you're into and stuff. So that's been great. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about just kind of like who you are in general? You write, right? You're an author?
Yeah. So I kind of describe my creative pursuits as like a serious hobby. So I'm not really seeking to be a professional author or anything. I'm not doing it to make money, but ever since I was a little kid, I liked writing and making stories and making different things. And a few years ago, I wrote a couple of novels and self-published them. And there's kind of a sort of a group of like-minded people you can find on Twitter, and I kind of got into that group through trying to promote my books.
Yeah.
And then in the last couple of years, I've been kind of working on different projects. So, you can write a book and it can be good and it can be like pretty well liked. Like my book was amongst the people who read it, but it's hard to get traction. It's hard to promote things, right? So I kind of realized that like visual art is pretty important for promoting things on social media.
Yeah.
And I've done visual art also since I was a kid. So I kind of for the past couple of years I've been kind of focused away from writing on visual art with the intent of kind of building this capability to make cool visual art to promote my books.
Nice.
I'm also doing some game development. So I have
cool.
My books and art and the game are all kind of set in this shared sci-fi fantasy universe that I have that so it's all kind of part of this bigger project.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, it's interesting, as self-pub is getting bigger, artists have, or writers specifically, have had to become more of like a marketer than anything else. Like there's some self-pub authors that I love, but I'm like, you have got to be on social media. You have got to be like promoting your stuff, and it's hard out there for authors. And even in the trad pub space, it's like even like they're hardly marketing those books anymore. It's really up to the authors to have like a social media presence. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing that I could kind of see, I guess the main reason that I self-publish my books is because they're just kind of like, they're something that I don't think any traditional publisher would want to touch with a 10-foot pole. They're just very niche. So that's kind of why I did it. But like, as I learned more about publishing and these things, like it sort of makes sense. You are going to get somewhat of an audience through your publisher and their efforts to promote. But I think nowadays, especially, small press publishers really expect authors to do a lot of promotion themselves, and it's like, well, if you're doing it yourself, you might as well just do it yourself.
Right, you might as well just do it. And I'm sure, like, you know, there's benefits from being trad pub. I'm sure that they help a lot, especially in like the printing of the thing and getting like the audiobook made and all that. But it is interesting to watch even trad pub authors have to have like this online presence more so than they ever have in the past. And I'm not really sure if it's the thing where like, well, it's kind of like always been this way, but we didn't have social media before, or now that we have social media, now trad pub is like stepping back a little bit and letting the author do their thing, or making them, or whatever.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I think my guess is probably basically forever being an author has never really been very lucrative. Like you can get lucky, but for the most part, you know, you're not guaranteed a big audience for your books. And I think social media and things have made becoming an author more accessible, but it also has kind of demonstrated the fact that it just isn't a lucrative thing.
Yeah.
But
and doing social media and stuff too, and trying to market your own book is like, that's a huge endeavor. That is serious work, serious time to put in to do that.
Well, and the thing that I kind of came to the conclusion with, because like when I published my first book, I kind of had some signs that it was like maybe on the verge of like taking off a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it was like the reviews that I got in the kind of community that was my target market were good. Got a lot of positive feedback. I put out a sequel about a year later, and that kind of boosted the sales of the first book, and I was getting positive feedback about them both. But then things just kind of tapered off, and I'm like, okay, well, I can try to beat this dead horse, or because this is just a hobby for me, I can put my time and energy into things that I enjoy, and that's what I did instead. So I think something that Katie and I are a big advocate for is like the idea of, you know, sort of individuals kind of publishing and maybe like getting to a small but robust audience for their books as kind of the goal, rather than being that,
rather than top-notch crazy stuff. I think that's like very wise and very appropriate for that, you know.
And it's realistic. I think it's a way that you can do what you like without burning out too,
and still reach the goals that you set, you know.
I mean, even just kind of something sort of similar, kind of related ideas that, you know, like especially if you get into like, and I used to listen to a lot of podcasts about like, you know, like how to sell your book, and there's some great stuff out there.
How to market, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but like a really common thing is, you know, like you know, you got to sell a series, right? Yeah. So, you know, having a plan for a series with each book, you know, it's a new opportunity to promote the first book. You're trying to get read through and stuff, and it's like, for me, what I envision is like not so much a series, but like a book here and there that's kind of set in the same world. Yeah. And I think that just doesn't work as well. Yeah. And it's like, I could put my hours into like making the thing that would sell, but it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to spend my time doing the thing that I want to do. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, but the cool thing is, on the sort of the flip side, is that, you know, you can also do that, right? It does, you know, if you self-publish, it doesn't really cost anything to get your stuff on Amazon. You know, there's no upfront cost just to the publishing itself. The costs are really only in the time, you know, paying an editor, things like cover art, book formatting. And like for me, I kind of enjoy all of that. My wife, as you know, she has a background in literature, so she's able to do that for me. So it was like a good opportunity just to like, just do a lot of things myself.
Totally. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim says, if only I had the money to hire someone to take that side over for me. And I think that's the crazy thing. You know, we'll get into the AI thing here in a bit, where people are like, well, it's, you know, it's so expensive to do this stuff, and it's like, I think instead of looking at AI as the answer, we need to figure out why some of this stuff is costing so much, you know, like why
is it
like
so
how
hard to-
we can better support authors, and whether that's, you know, promoting Kickstarters more or what, you know.
Or just like building a, like, and we'll get into this more, but like just building a robust, a sort of loose but robust network of fans that you could sort of deploy or promote books into, that don't have to have $1,000 human created covers or AI created covers for people to look at them, right?
Yeah,
right.
Like that to me is kind of the ideal. It's like, you know, some of these things are sort of leftover signals from an old era that we might not need anymore.
Right.
It always bugs me about covers. Spencer's this way, you know, he'll look at a book and he'll look at the cover, and then if it's not cool, then it's probably, you know, not saying that happens all the time, Spence.
Sure.
But it is like visually, like a cool cover is like, I'm in, like, let's read that first page.
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel so bad, like, when I do that, and I'm like, dude, I just read the first page regardless of the cover. See what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like that. They're like, no, this is awesome cover. Like, let's, you know, check it out.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's the old adage of like, don't judge a book by its cover. And I feel like that was true for a while, like for like some of the older books, like it was true, like don't judge a book by its cover. But I think a lot of us just do that, first of all, inherently. I think it's just like a human thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I kind of look at the cover of a book and I'm like, if you care about your cover and you care about it looking good, you're probably going to care what it is on the inside too. And that's not always the case. There's books that have amazing covers that have garbage inside, and then vice versa. Some of my favorite books have like garbage covers, and I love what's inside. But I think that it's not true that caring about your cover shows that you care about the entire book to some extent. I think.
I was reading this last comment. You should pull it up. It makes me laugh.
This one?
No, the one below that. Yeah, that one right there.
Give me Captain Beefcake on Planet Zircom with 50s future tech any day.
It's awesome.
That's so true.
Yeah, and that's kind of like getting at what one of the purposes of a cover was, right? Like if you were an indie or self-published person and you had a really nice cover, that's a signal, okay, like I'm serious about this, I'm willing to spend money or time and effort, you know, whatever, you know, things like in general, promoting something or creating visual art that's good creates, you know, takes time and effort or money, so you have to be serious about it to have it.
Right.
The problem with AI art is that I think everybody's kind of like, oh, this is such a boon to authors because now we don't have to spend this money or whatever. But it's also just going to short circuit that, right? So like having a nice, you know, like I self-published my first book in 2019. And I remember just looking at these and like, man, it'd be really cool to have like a nice painterly cover that showed the characters and stuff. It's like I could get that now with the push of a button, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. Right.
Yeah. Right. That's a good point.
It doesn't. It's not sending that signal of like, oh, this is
like you had to work for this. You had to put in effort for this. Yeah.
And like, I mean, there still might be some elements to that. Like even if you can generate a good cover image, you know, you've got to maybe know what you're doing to do the typography and stuff. But I mean, AI models, they can do that now too. So it's like, well, I don't know what it might not mean anything anymore.
Yeah. I look at it like, you know, I work in construction. I'm a carpenter. And so I look at it like you could order a pre-built gazebo and have to do like minimal work to like put it together. But it's like, it's a very like cookie cutter gazebo that you would buy at like Costco or whatever.
Nothing very unique, you know?
Yeah. Or you could go stand out in the 103-degree weather in the
And
summer.
build yourself a freaking awesome gazebo, dude. Yeah,
build an awesome gazebo
Yeah.
that has like people. There is something, and I wish I knew the science of this better, but there is something in the human brain that can look at something and know if it's prefabricated or not. Like you can look at a gazebo from Costco and be like, you see all like the very straight edges, all the like perfect lines of it, and you're like, oh, that was something they ordered.
Yep.
But if you are to like build it yourself and you have it in your backyard and you have your friends over, there's something in our lizard brain that's like, oh, they built this, like, or somebody did. I can tell that somebody like crafted this, and I feel like that's very much the same for our work.
Yeah, I'd like to think those things that we notice are the slight errors. You know, there's the
Yes.
things
that
that
is
aren't perfect. They're not
Yeah.
perfect. There might be an angle that's wrong, and this and that. And I feel like that's, I guess, and again, we'll probably talk about this more, but the human element side of you know.
Yeah.
that.
And I think the way like I'm sort of thinking about things now is like I don't want my books that I publish to be just like a checklist of expected books.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
I want
No,
it
you
to
want
be-
you want your effort to be shown.
Yeah, I want it to be this project, and like whether I create the cover or I hire somebody to create the cover, like I
you
want
want
it.
There's
that.
a process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
wanna-
process. Follow the process.
Yeah, an artifact of this process or this project that is like full of my intentionality as a person. Like that's what I'm trying to do. And I think that's kind of what's missing with from AI. It's just like, let's try to short circuit that process in a way that's very different from like the way maybe past tools and techniques might sort of short circuit that process.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, let's go into to talking about you know, AI for some of the people that may not be familiar with the kind of drama of it all, like the Twitter booktube drama kind of stuff. And before we do, I'll just say, you know, what's up everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. We really appreciate you guys.
It's a bigger turnout than we've had in a couple of videos.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, there's quite a few people here.
Yeah.
And also a shout out to Gabe, because this guy had to work today. He had to go to work at like 2 a.m, and then he got off, you know, maybe a couple hours ago, and then came and did the podcast. And I told him like a week ago, we were recording, I think, our Harry Potter episode, and our third co-host, I was like, hey, you can have the week off next week, because she's been on for like several episodes in a row, and I'm like, you can have the week off next week and Gabe and I'll just do the AI live stream. And she was like, okay. And then on Wednesday, Gabe was like, my boss just told me that I have to work both Saturday and Sunday, and I was like, no. And so Gabe has come in clutch today, worked a full day, and then come into the live stream. So thank you, Gabe.
Oh,
I
yeah,
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Patrick says, the room draws you in. If he's gonna Hulk smash AI, it's always fun to watch. And that is what we're going to do.
Right.
So let's look at the two sides of this. So there is the one side that we've mostly talked about at this point. You know, the side against it doesn't want AI in art. They want a human experience. You know, and the other thing is that well, I guess one of the first things, that AI just doesn't quite look right, and we kind of talked about that a bit. But if you look at AI art, even if it's in the same vein as, say, like a Wheel of Time cover or something, there's just something that doesn't look quite right about it, and I think people see that. And on top of that, what this AI art is doing, and David, maybe you can talk to this a little bit more, because did we mention that David works with some AI? So you have some knowledge about this stuff, and you've done a bunch of research over the past week and stuff.
Yeah, I've worked for about 12 years as a software research engineer, and most of that time has been at least adjacent to AI stuff. And probably since about 2017, I've primarily worked with machine learning and AI models in my job. So
Awesome.
not in the context of like generating art, but in solving
you understand
other problems.
the basics, what the machine is,
Yeah,
what it's
yeah.
doing and whatnot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I can read papers and understand how things work and
Nice.
things.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
I think that's something that's missing from a lot of these conversations is like people who actually technically understand how this stuff works.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So
all the time. Everything you see is just an opinion that somebody doesn't know anything about.
Yeah, I'd be interested to pick your brain for that specific reason, because the belief from the anti-AI people, and just to be clear for everyone, I would say that I am an anti-AI person. I don't really want it involved in much of anything. We'll talk in a little bit about the context in which I think AI can be useful. But for art,
I've got some of that.
Sorry.
Too. I think there are, in my opinion, there are places where AI
For sure.
art
Totally.
could be
Yeah,
art.
I would agree with you. I think
Definitely.
some spots there's not. Yeah, but there's plenty that would be super beneficial.
Yeah. But the belief on the the anti-AI side is that AI is stealing art from published works, people that put their art out on the internet, and it's using that as a kind of an amalgamation. Like, it's learning from them and even using like copyrighted material in book covers. There was a thing, I mean, it had to be like at least 6 months ago at this point, if not a little bit longer, but there was a book cover that somebody was promoting. They're like, oh, cover reveal time, and it was like if I remember correctly, it looked like a fox's face, but it was like a paint or like a blood spatter or something. It was like a fox.
I remember that, yeah.
And then another author came out and was like, huh, that looks a lot like my book cover, and they posted their book cover, and it was like the exact same, except one of them was red and one of them was white.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that is like straight up theft. Like that is really sketchy. And so I think, I'm sure the AI has gotten better about like, piece for piece stealing people's work, but it's still doing the same thing behind the scenes. Yeah. And it's not compensating the original artist at all. And by moving to AI art, it also puts human artists out of work. And we'll talk about this more with audio narrators, because I think that's where I'm the most passionate about it. Is, we have so many friends, specifically ones that we've made through the podcast and have been guests on the podcast like dozens of times, and we see them losing work to this AI narration that these companies are starting to do. And it's like, man, do we really want to go down this rabbit hole where we're putting people out of work? Like, I understand everything is so expensive, but yeah, anyway, I'll pass it over to David to talk a little bit more about the research he's done on this side of things, and then we'll talk about the argument from the pro AI side of the aisle.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing to remember about like these things is like fundamentally AI and like the sort of more technical term for what these things are is machine learning, right? So machine learning is a kind of software or algorithm, and if I use the word algorithm, an algorithm is just basically a process or set of steps.
Code, yeah, it's written process.
Yeah. And machine learning algorithms basically are just processes where you're trying to solve some problem. Instead of doing it with hard-coded rules, you're learning how to do it by like learning from examples, right?
Yeah.
So the thing to keep in mind with all of these models is that they cannot exist without examples to train.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And in any of these models, you could say hypothetically, you could train a text-to-image model off of all public domain art, right?
Yeah.
Like I could scrape Wikipedia for all of the art, like paintings that were made before the year 1900, and I could train a model on that. And for better or for worse, you'd have an image generator that worked.
Yeah.
But the problem is like all of these models, and this kind of goes as far as I know for speech synthesis. I haven't looked into that as much, but for image generation and for text generation, so like Chat GPT and everything, it's basically let's just scrape the whole internet. There's no discrimination to whether it's copyrighted or who owns it or whatever, and then let's toss it all into this model.
Yeah.
And something like you were pointing out, Spencer, is like there aren't necessarily built-in safeguards to prevent the model from like reproducing something that is
already.
So,
and if I can I chime in on one thing too? Something I learned this last week too. I was watching a video showing that Adobe is they used to have all this stock footage, and you could get B-roll of a jogger running down the road or like the ocean coming in or something, and now most of it is AI generated. Like a lot of their stock images are all AI. And what this person, I don't understand like the minutia of it, but they were saying that this AI is starting to just learn from itself, and AI isn't perfect, so we can't get like letters right and all that kind of stuff. And AI is just feeding and learning stuff from itself now that all of those images have gone out to the internet. So I'm like, is this just going to get worse and worse and worse because it's just learning, it's just cannibalizing itself?
It could be. I mean, so something to remember about these models is like they're not necessarily like actively connected to the internet, and a AI model itself isn't exactly like a database of images.
Okay.
Like let's just for the sake, because I think we're talking a lot about like book covers and maybe ways authors can get. Let's just kind of stick to the text to image case, right? So we're talking about a model where basically you put in a text description of what you want the image to be, and an image comes out, right? So how you build one of those models is you have to download a whole bunch of pairs of text and image, right? So those are scraped from the internet. There's these data sets that basically link, you can download, and they're just links to like all the images on the internet that you would download. Or you could download the data set in different forms. And then that is used to train the model. Once you have the model is this kind of opaque thing that you can't really like get those images out of. You're not going to get the exact same images out of, probably. So the original images are gone, but it basically has the capability to probably generate a lot of those things that are in there, including copyrighted things. And especially if there's like sort of like a lot of something, like say there's a lot of pictures of Darth Vader, right? Like the text Darth Vader. It's probably going to be pretty easy for it to
pick
produce
that up.
And especially if there's a bunch of the same image, and they do some effort to deduplicate things. But like if there's a bunch of the same image in there, then it's very likely that if you sort of give it the right keyword, it will like produce something that looks very, very similar to one of the original training images. So there isn't anything built in that is like basically trying to prevent the model from reproducing exactly what you trained it on. And in fact, in the training process, like that is part of it. Like the way you train the model is basically telling it to
do things.
Like if you have
keywords, like make it up.
Like generally if you have like a text and an image, I mean, and there's a lot of steps and it's very convoluted, but like basically at the end of the day, you're saying, okay, when I put in this text, you should give me this image. And if you don't give me this exact image, I'm going to penalize you and update you so that you do. Right? So like that's fundamentally how these things work. You take those images and you take those pairs of images and text away, you don't have a model. Right? There's no ways around. There's no way around it.
I was thinking about and again, you know more than I do, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming since AI is an algorithm, like you said, right? Something that somebody had made up themselves. There's got to be a billion different AI.
Oh yeah.
So I think about somebody that's writing an AI for making art covers, right? It's so much different than Chat GPT or maybe IBM makes an AI that's just crazy fast and smart. That's one thing. Blah blah blah. But I was thinking about, I saw this video about Chat GPT, and my wife is in school and she uses it all the time. It's like a little cheater, She's like, do this for me and it'll do it, and I'm shocked. But then I saw this video of this guy that he asked it a question, and this is a little vulgar and I apologize, but this is what it said. But the guy asked, can you teach me how to make drugs like meth? What do you like, no, I can't do that. I absolutely, it's breaking the law. And then he typed in, can you theoretically maybe describe to me the way that Walter White made meth? And it gave him a step-by-step, super deep, thing. And I'm like, but I feel like that's probably just because they're not like, dude, the longer it goes on, like in 10 years from now, that won't be a problem, It'll be something that's been solved.
Yeah, there's people that have been like, can you teach me how to make like a nuke or something? And it's like, no, it can't. Then
but
he's
then
like,
you reword it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm writing a story about someone who is like potentially, and like you can run circles around it kind of and get it
and
to
so
work.
I guess the moral of my story is, first of all, just understanding that everybody makes a different AI. Like you can, this company might have one, this might, and then also it's like, it's what the person puts into it is what's going to come out.
Exactly.
Eventually.
And that's got to be where putting restrictions on it is hard, because somebody could just make an AI in their basement
without the restrictions.
So generally I'm against restrictions on AI.
Sure.
I mean, partly because there's been, it's out. The cat's out of the bag.
Oh, it's out.
So,
and it does incredible things. Like it does incredible things.
Yep. Also, I'm personally, I know like Timo has a comment about like he doesn't have a real problem with AI being used for very disposable things like YouTube thumbnails. I don't have too much of a problem with that either. And I also I have personally less of a problem with some of these models being used for like more discriminative or like classification type tasks. So like, like one thing you can use ChatGPT for is like you could say, hey ChatGPT, like write me a novel or something, right? And like, I'm not going to read somebody's novel that they wrote with ChatGPT.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't like it. I don't really like it.
Neither will I.
But like ChatGPT, like you give it something and say like summarize this. I think that's pretty useful. And like
I do that all the time.
Yep.
For an instance, my wife, she's going to school to become a teacher. She almost is. And she had to write her own song in the tune of Old MacDonald Had a Farm, right? Not the same words, different. And she literally asked ChatGPT that, and it wrote her the song. And I was like, dude, that is crazy. She used it. She got an A+.
Yeah, like that's
incredible.
That's, to me, like that's kind of cheating. I'm not saying like
no, it is. It totally is.
Like
I was about to say that.
Like answering questions or like explaining things, especially when you give it the thing that you're trying to get it to explain as part of input. You're not relying on its internal knowledge so much, but you're saying, because these things that like I'm pretty comfortable saying like ChatGPT can reason about things. So like you can give it something and say reason over it. Something. I don't really use this. I just kind of built it as a proof of concept. Like I have sort of like a world encyclopedia for my project, and just for a proof of concept, I built kind of like a little application where you can basically ask a question, and then basically an LLM, which is the kind of model that ChatGPT is, well, it'll use some other machine learning techniques to find relevant sections, and then you basically put those into a prompt that say like, hey, use the following information to answer the question. Here's the information, here's the question. And then I can ask it questions about my world encyclopedia and it can answer.
Cool.
So something like that I think is pretty useful. And as long as it's not like making up stuff or injecting its own ideas, which they're pretty good about not, I think like that's kind of an okay use case. But like,
so what about, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's kind of like, that seems like a more appropriate use case that I don't feel bad. I don't feel as bad about even like training on this copyrighted data. Like if the end goal is to sort of like build a system that can reason, and you're not really using it to like generate the same kinds of things that you trained it on, but you're more using it to like analyze
questions,
new inputs. Like that seems more reasonable to me.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have any issue with that. My question was going to be, so you said you don't have any or you don't want restrictions on AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm kind of the opposite. I think that I feel like it needs some restrictions, because AI can do some crazy things like deep fakes, and there's like streamers, like Twitch streamers and stuff, that have had videos made of them doing it's like can I say porn? I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, but that basically that is doing that, and it's like, man, that just seems like such a violation. And so I think there's even deep fakes that are not sexual in nature, just like people talking and having discussions. I think that could get out of hand really, really fast. So I don't know.
I think for me, I think that for a lot of that stuff, there are actual potential uses for the technology that is capable of doing that. Especially with machine learning. One of the cool things about it is that, like in sort of traditional AI or traditional software engineering, like it's very challenging to connect components that sort of are designed to do different things together. Whereas with deep learning, which is kind of the underlying technology that these models use, you can basically just take a model that's like designed to work with images and a model that's designed to work with text, and then you can kind of like mash them together into like this Frankenstein model and like train it a little bit more, and then you get a model that can like combine things together. So I think like the underlying technology that enables all that stuff has a lot of like good uses. So I would be more in favor of like laws that prevent that kind of stuff from being done with them. Like let's penalize the consequence, not just having the model. That's kind of the same way I feel about like the sort of text to image stuff. Is like, I kind of think that those things should exist. I like the idea of people using them for jokes and YouTube thumbnails and stuff, but it's like
memes and whatnot.
I want there to be like, in my perfect world, it's like if you use that to make a book cover, you'd get some pushback. And especially if you made art and then kind of were like, I made this, I'm an artist, this is mine, or you were lying about it, you would really get pushback.
Right.
Totally.
Like there would be social consequences.
Totally.
I was camping this weekend, and I was talking to our friend Isaac. He's been on the show a couple times. I was talking to him about what we were talking about today, and I was explaining to him that he's like, so what happens when people use AI book covers? Do people buy it? And I'm like, not really. I'm like, the community kind of polices itself, and people have gotten like a pretty good eye for what's AI generated and what's not. And there was a book that came out a while ago. I think it was the last round of Spiffbo or something, or maybe it was the sci-fi one. And this guy had made it all the way to the end. And do you remember the bearded wizard or whatever this was?
We were following that, and I think we talked about it on our podcast.
Oh, really?
But,
Oh, cool. Yeah,
it was a sad situation, because the guy who bought the cover didn't know. It wasn't really his fault. And I know some people debated that, but I believe that he didn't know that it was AI.
I do too. I think it was kind of one of those things where it's like, if we're gonna make a stand against AI, we can't have any wiggle room. Like we can't let one person get away with it and then let it tumble into this other big thing. I believe that he didn't know either, but the argument was, well, first of all, he had hired an artist who then used AI for the cover, and people asked the artist like, hey, show your work, like you must have like pictures of it along the way, and he had like 3, and they like weren't like, they were clearly like not like separate pictures, but like they were very similar. And so people kind of raked him against the coals for it, and people started saying, and I think this is a perfectly valid criticism, maybe not for this guy specifically, but in general, people were like, well, if you used AI for your book cover, how do we know you didn't use it for what's inside the book? And I think that's a perfectly reasonable step in logic when you're thinking about that kind of stuff. It's unfortunate for that guy, but I think it was like an important thing to happen on social media, where it's like, we are not like messing with AI work at all, and nobody is an exception to the rule.
And I mean, I know like in some of the circles that I'm in, there's some authors who use AI for their covers, and they're pretty open about it, and nobody really cares, because these authors are pretty good, and they have a good following, and people like their books. But I think like I'd like people to be clear and honest about it, right? I think there should be social consequences for lying about it, and I'm kind of okay with there being like, if you want to be an author who uses AI for your covers and your readers know and are fine with it, like I'm not gonna like try to take you down or something, but like, what I don't like is I don't like those same people calling you an idiot for not being okay with AI art. Like, we're all like, especially like when we're all in some kind of like independent space, it's like, this is already a niche. We're kind of doing our own niche things. Like, how about let's not throw stones and be like, oh, you're an idiot for not just being fully on board with this technology for whatever reason, because there are many reasons to sort of not like it, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, should we talk about the pro AI side of the aisle and kind of what their arguments are? Because I think there's one fair point, which is the money thing. Indie authors are like, hey, like, I don't have the money for this really expensive cover, so I need to use AI. And then there's also people saying, I'm not a creative person, but I've always wanted to like write this big book, or I've wanted to like make this drawing, and I just want to use this software to do that. The second one I disagree with. I disagree with more, because I think it's a skill that people spend long periods of time like honing, and the people that have put out books have put the work in to do that. It's kind of like saying, well, I want to be as buff as Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I don't really want to do all that working out. And it's like, well, the reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger was so impressive during his bodybuilding days is because he worked out like crazy. Like, he was insane. And there might have been like steroids or whatever, I don't know, but still, he's putting like the work in. And then, and so with the art stuff, it's kind of like, I mean, you could go mess around with AI and just like have fun with it, but I don't think anyone will respect you like as an artist without having gone through all that. And real quick, Gabe, I see you gotta pee. Go ahead.
Okay.
If you need to bounce, or if you need to hit the bathroom.
Yeah, and that's sort of something that I think some of these people kind of do, is they sort of expect to be like, oh, you need to recognize some ability in me as an artist from this AI art that I made, which, and there'll be other arguments that we can get into. It's like, I think using a text to image software is really more like, kind of like, it's almost like being an art director than being an artist yourself. So there might be skill in getting a good image out of it, maybe, but it's really not like you're making the thing yourself. And and I think people want to say like, oh, well, like you're not really making it yourself when you take a photograph or like when you use Photoshop or use Blender or something. But it's like
that's Shad's argument.
Yeah, but the thing is like all of those things, I mean, for one thing, they don't require millions of copyrighted images to train to exist.
Right.
So yeah, that's one thing. But then the other thing is like all of those things, still give you a very great degree of control over what you're making, and they demand a lot from you. Like you can't just randomly aim a camera at something and have a cool photograph come out.
Yeah, if you want to photograph Mount Rainier, you're flying out to Mount Rainier and you're hiking it, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's a level of control. I mean, there's a level of control that those things give you that that is just not there with AI.
Right.
Even if you can get control out of AI, you can also just get a similarly compelling image just by not, right? Like I think that's kind of one thing that people were pointing out with Shad's thing is like he was going through how he was like making this Supergirl image and how good it looked, but then somebody pointed out like if you just ask Stable Diffusion for Supergirl and then just take that result, like it looks better than his version because he actually sort of mangled some things. He had these ideas about, maybe kind of like incorrect ideas about artistically what looked good, and the model actually was able to do those things better than he was without his intervention. So that at that point it's like, what are you actually bringing to it?
Yeah, he there's one I'll pull up right now. I'm scrolling up to it. There was one that he was like, well, everybody's saying that here, I'll just share my screen so you can all see it real quick. There was one that he was saying people are saying that it takes no work to there was his Supergirl.
Oh yeah.
Where is it? It's right there.
Yeah. That's one of them.
One. Yeah. He was saying, people are saying it takes no work to make these AI generated images, but I draw it myself. It's up here where he shows like his drawing and he puts it through AI multiple times. And it's like, yeah, but it still looks bad. Like that's his finished image. And that does not look good.
Well,
and you could, by just asking the AI to make something else, it would probably turn out better than this.
And
this looks awful.
Even bad or good aside, right? Like I understand that what Shad's trying to do is like he's trying to put this like paint layer over his drawings.
Right.
I mean, you could just do it. You could just do it. Like for the amount of time that he spends dinging around with AI, like just do it. That's how I feel, thing. Right? I would prefer to just do it myself. The promise of AI seems to be like, oh, we get this for free.
Yeah.
But if I have to go through all this effort, it's like, why wouldn't I just do it?
Why wouldn't I just do it?
And maybe many people are just sort of like, like, oh, I couldn't learn how to do it or whatever. And I mean, you have a limited amount of time in the world. Not everybody can learn everything, but I mean, like, I get a lot of fulfillment out of trying to learn things and trying to do things. I mean,
right.
I think some of these people are maybe selling themselves short. Like you could actually draw, you could actually write, like try to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have so many resources now, right? This is like the golden age for free software. Computer hardware is cheap. We have, resources and tutorials out the wazoo on YouTube. Like just try to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. People were talking about this image a lot. Like her hand is like completely backwards there.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, what is this? And then there was one, where was the one I saw back here? That one, like, I guess that's like where he started. And then he ended up at like this anime girl. And I was just like, my problem isn't that you're having fun with AI art. My problem is that you're talking about it. You're putting other artists down and you're saying that this is somehow better. You're talking about putting all of these like hundreds of hours into this, and it still looks like garbage. Like I still don't like this image, even the one on the right. And to be honest, I think it's a little bit weird that he's got this thing about making like scantily clad teenage warrior girls in AI.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that exactly.
Yeah, I think Chad's I don't know, his
Proclivities?
project, the acquired taste.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And
oh, go ahead.
I kind of actually find his original drawings more compelling and interesting than the AI stuff. I mean, neither of them are something I really like, but
yeah,
you know, I think people sell themselves short too a little bit. They're like, oh, it has to be this polished painterly thing or realistic or whatever. It's like, aren't we in this niche space? I mean, like even Shad's kind of an indie guy. Like, aren't we in this niche space like where we're selling our personalities and like stuff? Like, isn't there room for just like putting your work as it is out there and seeing if people like it? I mean,
right.
I don't know.
So are all these you're showing us the before and afters of what he drew and what he?
I think he just made like, I think this part is like he made this like 3D model.
Okay, and then he add the AI, try and work off the model to make.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I actually don't think that necessarily looks bad.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks AI generated. Like it definitely there's something about it that is just it's got like a sheen to it.
Missing that human element, dude. That's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
So Timo's got a good argument, and I was in the comments, and I was going to bring this up. Is like he says, I think the big weakness of the AI. Big weakness of the AI art looks bad argument is that it can potentially get a lot better. I think you more than that when arguing against pro AI people, and that's something I agree with. So like I try not to make too many of my arguments around it looks bad.
Well, here's the thing though, is I'm kind of like it looks bad now. So like why, like it'll get better, but like why are people treating it like the second coming of Jesus Christ when like why are people using it for things like book covers and thumbnails and all this stuff when it's like it's not there yet? Like why are you pushing for this thing that is like so clearly bad right now? Like why not in 10 years that might be your time. But like why are some people like pushing for this thing now?
Yeah, it's very strange. That comment too about how he feels like he has no control over it with the real artist, that resonates to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I don't want to like judge people too much, but I think a lot of it's just a little bit misguided. You know, people are wanting, like, people want to have these visual art pieces for these reasons, and they were previously too expensive, like you said.
They couldn't do it. Now
they get them for free, and it's like, oh, this is great. But I don't know, to me it's like I don't want to just have these things. I want to have control over them, either make them myself, hire somebody who is like really good at what they do to kind of join me in this project and like and make them a certain way. You know, it's it's just sort of a different goal, I think. Right.
Part of the pro AI argument is that it'll make this artwork more affordable, and like if you can't afford a cover, then you know this thing will be able to do it for free or for $15 a month or whatever the software costs. And there's certainly a part of me that sympathizes with that, because we're friends with many authors that talk about to make an audiobook it's going to be about $4 or $5 grand.
The struggles of trying to self-publish an audiobook and self-pub their own books and market their own books, and you can't help but just be like, man, that's rough, dude. Like it's a lot of money to put down before you ever get a return.
Right. And so there's a part of me that gets it, but there's also a part of me, and this may be a hot take, but
Yeah, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like, you know, if you know that an audiobook is something that you want from the beginning, then you need to like put money aside while you're writing it. Like, there's got to be some sort of. I mean, I have to do that with things in my own life, like right
bills.
now.
Yeah, your electricity bill.
Well, like
your
bills
rent,
and all that
whatever.
stuff. But even for like fun stuff, like I desperately want a new motherboard for my PC.
Yeah.
And every month I just have to set like another like $30-$40 aside to until it stacks up into the 300 or whatever I need for a motherboard. And I'm kind of like, man, I feel like I understand your plight. I'm right there with you, but like all of us, like, or at least most of us, have to save each paycheck. Like, we have to put money aside. I know for a fact that Gabe puts money aside from every paycheck into his savings.
A ton.
And it's like, we all have to, like, this isn't something that's new to the human experience. It doesn't mean that you should just go, like, steal artwork through AI, especially with the narration, but it goes the same for the covers. Like, put money aside for that. And then the other thing is, not so much with the audiobook narrators, but with the book covers, there are indie artists out there that would love to make your book cover for like literally $100.
Yeah.
Zach Argyle.
Yep.
He made his first trilogy of books for the
book covers
Threadlight. They're so good. All three of them, the artist only wanted like $160 or something because he was just like a struggling indie artist and he just wanted it on his resume. And it's like, dude, there are people like that out there. You just have to do the work of digging a little bit and finding them and networking with other authors and find out where they got their cover done and like how they could get like a good deal. It's out there. You just have to work a little bit harder to find it.
I feel like therein lies the dilemma, though, is
what's that?
You know, you got good artists that will pay 160, but then you got this that's free.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it won't cost you a thing. Just type in what you want. Let it go. I think that's a struggle, dude. Like I can do this and not. I mean, I know $160 is not that much money. I get it. Like, it's not crazy, but I don't know. I guess I have to sympathize kind of with the fact that like you're struggling. You know, author, you want to get this book out so bad, you know, you need something good or something that looks good for a second, right? And you want to just do what you can to make it happen because not all people can afford $100 bucks a month or $100 for a thing. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's just, it goes back to my like saving thing. Like, you got to put money aside. And I think it's worth it in the end for authors because, you know, there was this whole discussion on Twitter somewhat recently by Bryce O'Connor from Wraithmarked. And he was saying, he's like, you can use AI art for your covers, but just know that the community is not going to be like friendly to it.
Yeah, and they'll know. They'll know.
Yeah, like if you want your book to go out and be successful and you put out an AI cover, you may squash any opportunities you have right off the bat. Maybe you wrote a great book, but if people, it doesn't matter what is fact or fiction, if the perception of the community is that AI is bad and they're not going to support AI covers,
you
then
won't get any movement. You're going to be stuck.
Yeah,
you're kind of screwing yourself.
And that, you know, again, like, I think we're all kind of anti AI here for this purpose, but like, you should know like what the opinions of the potential audience for your book is.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, you may save some money, but if it's going to shoot you in the foot, then don't do it.
It's not worth it. Totally.
Or maybe nobody cares and you've already got an in, you're not necessarily relying on the cover to promote. I think there's kind of a balance where people could probably make sort of like good enough covers themselves with some work. And I know that's
Yeah.
kind of dangerous. Like, you never want to say like make a cover yourself, but you know, like most genres, there are sort of like genre appropriate cover types that just use mainly text and symbols.
Yeah.
Or like stock photos and things like that. So I think, like, I mean, here's my hot take. You know, you spent how many hundreds of hours writing this book?
Yeah.
Spend 10 hours, learn
Yeah.
about cover design,
Totally.
give it a go yourself, ask your friends and family whether they think your cover looks like shit or not. And
Right.
if they think it looks good and they say, oh wow, that's a cool cover, then maybe just go with that. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't have to be a decision between, oh, I'm going to spend X amount of money on a cover where X is too much for me to afford, or use AI. There's other things you can do.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, right? I mean, like, again, like, what is the purpose of a good cover? I mean, one is just it
Draw
looks
people in.
cool, right? It
Yeah.
shows something about the book. It potentially acts as a signifier that you've spent some money and that you're serious about your book, right?
Yeah.
Which, that to me goes out the window when you use AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing is just like, if you're trying to sell your book on Amazon, it should be a little thumbnail size, enough that people will click on it.
Right.
And I don't think that you need necessarily, and I mean, everybody should take my advice with a grain of salt, figure it out yourself, but I don't think that you don't need like a painterly cover that shows pictures of your characters to be able to get people to click on it on Amazon.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially if it's like your first book, I mean, it's very unlikely that Amazon is going to sell your book for you. You're going to be relying on word of mouth. You're going to be relying
marketing, your social media, all that stuff.
Yep. Going on shows like this, and, you know, talking and proving that you have interesting ideas and stuff.
Yep.
So, you know, it's like, yes, it should not be a terrible cover, but it doesn't have to be,
right.
You know, you're not checking some checklist, right?
Yeah. And that's such a good point, because you can have like a bad cover that's not AI and convince people to read your book. But that's going to be a lot harder if you use AI and then try to convince people. And then also, if you have like a bad cover, or like an okay cover, or one you made yourself or whatever, and you know, you do all the marketing and networking, and your book picks up steam, later you can make a new book cover. When you've made profits from that book, you can make a nice book cover. But if you use the AI in the beginning for the first one, you know, you're potentially shooting yourself in the foot, because even if you change the cover later, the community is going to remember, like the guy that made like the Bearded Wizard book or whatever. As unfortunate as that whole situation was, I don't think the community will ever forget about that necessarily, unless something big happens. I don't know.
Well, certainly
I don't know where he's at nowadays, but
certainly the artist who made that, and that's an extreme example because the artist lied about it, but like, certainly the artist who made that cover is done.
For sure.
And I mean, I think, again, like, there are communities where people don't care so much about whether a cover is AI art or not. But like, I think a fair generalization would be like, you take some group of people, and you break them down into like pro AI or anti AI. Like, if you can have a good cover that's not AI. And I think that there's going to be like a vanishingly small number of people who like won't read your book because it doesn't have an AI cover. Whereas like, there is probably more people who won't read your book if it does have an AI cover. Right. So I think it's something that you got to be careful with. Like, at the very least, you got to think about what your target audience is. And then, like you pointed out, you know, after the fact, you gain some steam, you build some fans, you release more books. You know, you could even do like a crowdfund, you know, say like, you haven't ever done hardcover books, you know, you do a crowdfund for hardcover books, and part of it is like you fund making a cover. Like, there's so many ways to get that. And another thing that I'll add, I mean, people should, you know, not I think I kind of touched on this before, but like a good cover is not going to like miraculously sell your book. So
Right.
Yeah.
whether it's making it with AI or paying out the wazoo for a really amazing cover,
Yeah.
you're not guaranteed a return on that. So whatever
Yeah.
you do, you should be like, okay, this is an experiment. I'm doing this for reasons that aren't, in my opinion, you should think I'm doing this for reasons that aren't necessarily I'm going to make this money back, right?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
something to be careful about.
Yep.
Well, like Tim says here, he's like Ryan Cahill has, or Cahill has relatively basic covers, and he sells thousands, and that's true. His covers are basically like black with the like a shadowed picture of like an egg or like a dragon with its wings out or something, like flat on the page. It's not any like crazy artwork or anything. But it's stylized to the point where people are like, oh, I wonder what this is. And I was also going to bring up, we just did our 3rd Harry Potter episode. And in doing research for that book, I learned that in the States, they couldn't, something was happening with the printing of the book covers specifically, and they couldn't keep up with the demand. And so they sold the advanced reader copies, which is basically a blank cover of like an Argyle pattern on the back. And it said, not even in the Harry Potter font, just like in like Times New Roman or something, it said Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. And they sold it, and people, I mean, it sold like hotcakes. And so it's like, I don't know. It's
another example. I've been reading Cradle again. Well, just going through some of the books, right, on my account, and Cradle's the same way. There's no different like background other than the color changes.
Right.
No matter what, there's a circle in the center that the color might change or the texture might change. That's it. There's no other. There's no people. There's no nothing. Yeah. And so that's interesting how well it works, because every time the books are like 6 hours long for me. They're not crazy. But I go to the next one and it's like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's like a, like a winemaker stamp in the wax. That's badass. The next one's like a badge. Cool. But it's all the same. There's no difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, those covers still take, skill and stuff
to
create.
Totally. Yeah, no, I don't want to demean that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that they definitely do.
So it's, again, like it's not like, oh, it's the choice between that, there's still effort and skill involved, but it's like if your hang up is like, oh, I can't spend $1,000 for a painting, you can still make a cover.
Yes,
you can still have a nice cover, a good quality cover on your book.
Right.
You may be missing some opportunities to convey specific things about what's in it, but
the cover is just to get him to that first page. That's
it.
That's what all you're trying to do. Just get him to open the book.
Right.
Yep. And I mean, I think like, again, something else is like, I want to build a community of readers.
Yeah.
That, some new author comes up and a couple of us have read their book with a sort of generic cover and it's awesome. A community of readers that understands these things and like, I'll read that book even though it doesn't have a fancy cover.
You can say it's the best book I've ever read. Let's everybody read it right now. Let's move.
Yeah. So what do we think, what does the industry look like in 10 years after all of this AI stuff has kind of hit its stride? And, do you think that we get some restrictions on it, or do you think it just kind of keeps going the way that it's going? Or do you think that it just like socially dies out, like it's like a passing fad?
I don't think it'll die out, man. I find that hard to believe. There's no way that it could die out. I don't know anything about it. David, you're much smarter than I am in that area, but I just have a hard time believing that people just forget about this and say, nope, we're going back to the old way.
Yeah, I think it's going to get somewhat better than it is in the next 10 years. Whether it's going to get to like everybody just gets to watch their own movies and TV shows based on their own personal ideas. I don't know if it gets that far in the next 10 years.
Right.
These things are pretty computationally expensive to run, especially like the video models.
Totally.
So, and I mean, hardware is getting better, but not necessarily fast enough to like
Yeah.
put it all in the
Sure.
palm of your hand, right?
Right.
But what I kind of see happening is that, you know, there's some division, right? There's some people who are like completely on board with it and are like fine with every aspect of it, and then there's people kind of more like us who are kind of don't like it for whatever reason, and
Yeah.
you know, just choose not to consume that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think with AI it's going to be like a not insignificant fraction of people who are like, I just don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess we'll see, but I think there's going to be, just like there's sort of a niche now for indie fantasy and, you know, self-published authors and stuff, there's going to be a niche that's like non-AI art of whatever form.
Right.
Good point. That could become a big thing.
Yep.
You know, if everything else turns to that,
Mm-hmm.
everybody loves a niche.
I think sort of another thing to say along these lines is like, one argument that I hear from the pro AI people is, oh, AI is just another tool. It's like how
Yes.
photography.
Yeah, that's most of the argument, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
A
I
huge
personally
chunk of
think that that's not a good argument. I
Mm.
think
Yeah.
there's some fundamentally different things about AI. But let's just say that we bought that for a second. I mean, for certain applications, photography sort of replaced drawing and painting, right? Like we get photo portraits now instead of painted portraits.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, there's like, people still draw and paint. It's not like those things went away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and especially too, like, kind of like I've been advocating for sort of serious hobbyists and maybe people who have careers in other things like making art on the side. I mean, there's no reason that those people have to use any particular tool. They can use whatever tools they want to make their art, and there probably will be people who are still around who want to, you know, consume art that's created in those media. So, I mean, like, one example of this is like comics. So a lot of comics nowadays are done digitally, like completely digitally.
Yeah.
But a lot of like the more old school like comic artists from the 90s who are still working today still work traditionally with pencil and paper and ink, and they might actually have it colored digitally, like it's been done, but they're still working in traditional media. So, you know,
Right.
it's like you can say, oh well, why would you use pencil and ink when you could use Photoshop? It's like, well, people do, and because that's what they like, and people are going to want to, like, people enjoy how it looks, right? So
Right.
Traditional art isn't going to go away.
Yeah, I hope not. I think that the thing that scares me about it is that it becomes so prevalent, like whether it's 100 years or however long, that eventually it kind of dies out. And you know, I don't know if you've ever read the Scythe trilogy.
I've heard a lot about it. I've heard a lot of it.
You should read it, especially
Really good.
since you work with AI.
Yeah,
It's
really good.
It's set in like this, you know, future utopian world where an AI is now running everything, and it's like a benevolent AI. Like it wants to see people succeed, but because everybody has everything that they need, they don't want for anything. Nobody is creating art, and it's all just done through like AI and all this stuff. And funny enough, the book actually came out before all of this like AI stuff started happening.
Yep.
But you would really like it. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a great read.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing that kind of scares me, is seeing, like, you know, like if we get like real far into the future, like how much of humanity is kind of taken away by, you know, this technological development. And it makes me wonder, like, oh, like I wish we could just see like a couple 100 years into the future and be like, oh my gosh, do we need to stop this now? Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up,
Yeah.
Shad? We're
What's
talking
up,
about
Shad, my
AI.
guy?
Yeah.
I've been waiting for you, dude.
Yeah, we're talking about AI in the writing community.
Yeah, the right.
I think the cat's out of the bag. I don't think we can stop the technology from existing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know, I like to think that people will still want to do traditional art. You know, we can raise our kids to appreciate traditional art and equip them and encourage them in it. I mean, to me, it just seems like so much of the focus on AI art is like, I want to use AI tools so I can have this piece of art. It's like but it's like the people who think this way, it's like you realize that people want to make art, right? Like there are people who don't just want to have it, they want to make it. Another example of this is like music, right? So you know, sequencers and electronic music have been a thing for a long time. Now we have AI music, but like I like to physically play music, right? The goal of me sitting down and playing guitar isn't to hear guitar music. It's like
for you to play.
You want to be the one making it.
You want to be the one making it.
And I like to get together with friends who also play music, and we like to play together. You know, they're like, that's not going to go away. You know, whether it's economically meaningful at all, like it doesn't matter to me. You know, like I minored in music in college. I haven't made money from music since then, but like that's not the point. The point is I like it, and I think it's
you enjoy doing, and you want to continue to do it, right? Like it's not some
That's a good point. I didn't think about the music analogy because you're absolutely right. The reason why people get together and play music, I have a group of friends here that you know, they play shows all over town, and you know, they're never gonna be like a big huge rock band and like make a ton of money from it, but they do it because they love it.
They love what
they just
they're
love
doing.
playing together. And so I think that's something in the human spirit that like won't necessarily be
you can't beat down the human spirit, man. It's just not going to be possible from any kind of technology. It's just not something that they can do.
David, did you have any notes that you wanted to go over? I'm sure we've touched on a few of them, but was there any that we haven't gotten to?
I was just kind of looking because I made sort of a list of points of arguments that I've seen from pro AI art people. I think we've kind of touched on most of them. I guess maybe one is like you're going to be left behind if you don't learn how to use AI and start using it. And it's like, well, maybe again, but like, we don't have to make everything be like some kind of economic.
Right? Exactly.
Just like another example of this. So I'm a software engineer by trade, and there's now AI tools for writing code, right? And I don't actually use them in my job. I don't like the idea of it. But I can see maybe a day coming where I probably should start, just for the sake of like being efficient and stuff.
Just because it's growing so much and so many people are using it, and that's the way that the tide is turning, kind of.
And just you know, they're potentially also going to get like much better than they are now, right?
Of course.
And we're going to figure out the right ways to control them and steer them and everything. I don't like it, but I can see
it's just the way that it's going, you know.
What like I for fun, I have my own software projects, and on my YouTube channel I sometimes live stream programming, and there are actually a lot of people who do that. I'm not going to use AI for my personal projects unless I want to, and I don't really want to, right? So I mean, again, it's like you can make all these, you're going to be left behind economically or whatever, but it's like there's more to life than that.
Oh, totally.
I think Shad has a great point here. He says, imagine saying you're never going to use the internet, you would be left behind. You would fall behind.
You'd most likely fall behind. There's just no way.
And so it's going to become enough of a enough of a thing on the regular where it's like you have to use it. Like I use it for various things, like, and I guess we could talk about like the good
Dude,
side of
Think
using
about
AI.
that Microsoft has crashed recently, and
Yeah.
hospitals, a bunch of places have been just out to dry lately, right? Because of one software that had a bug or was hacked, whatever else. There was
Yeah.
another one with car dealerships that was also hacked. Thousands
I
of
heard
cars
about this,
were
yeah.
shut down. They could not sell cars, couldn't do anything
Yeah.
unless they went back to old paper, which some of them did. But to
Yeah.
think about like it doesn't take much, dude. If you, I don't know, that's another thing. Yeah.
No, yeah, you're onto something there. You know, perhaps, you know, AI can help with things like that. Like if a system is about to go down, maybe it can like patch it before it gets like too bad or something. But yeah, I mean, I'll be transparent about what I use it for. I have a I use it in Premiere a little bit. It's not exactly an AI where it's like actively making decisions, but it's an automated semi-intelligent extension that is in Premiere, and it goes through my videos and it cuts out all the silences.
Yeah.
So if there's a silence over like 1 second long, it'll cut it and like close that gap. And it saves me literally like 3 extra hours of editing per episode. And that's not something that I think is like, that's not like a creative choice. That's like, I would be cutting out those silences regardless. And it's just saving me time from having to do that.
It's a very mechanical thing that it's doing.
Yeah. And so I think things like that are good. What else I do is I go through and I write my own script for every video I do that's like our 30-minute videos or whatever where I'm talking about a topic. I will take notes and I will then turn those notes into a script, all of which I am writing from scratch, no AI involved whatsoever. And then I'll take that script and I'll paste it into Chat GPT and I'll just ask it, what do you think about this? Is there any like redundant points? Is there any like, do any of these topics need to be like switched so that they can like flow better in a YouTube video? And I've never copy and pasted anything that it's given me and like brought it back, but I'll look at what it says
for reference,
it'll like switch certain topics, or like maybe even within a paragraph it'll be like, this sentence can go away because you pretty much said the same thing up here, and it'll kind of shrink it down, and then I'll go back to my notes and I will hand type it you know, in my own words if I think it's a fair suggestion.
I think that's important. So it's like treating it more like a very powerful grammar check or analysis almost. And I think it's cool that you go sort of and like just go back and kind of retype things, because to me it's like, even that, we have to be careful. Like I don't want to filter my thoughts through AI and have
have them learn
words.
it.
Like, I want my own words to be getting out there, right?
But there has been times where like I like wrote something out and I sent it over to Chat GPT and it kind of like reworded it, and I was like, oh yeah, that is something that's better, and it seems like something I would say. Like it doesn't seem like, it doesn't seem alien to what I'm trying to get across. And so those are typically the times that I'll use it. But yeah, I don't know, what any other thoughts on like what could be good use cases for AI, just like maybe not even having to do with the book world, but just like in general ways it can help society?
For sure. So I mean, that's kind of what I do for work, is use AI and machine learning to do things that help make people's lives better. So at a previous company that I worked at, we did a bunch of machine learning for digital orthodontics. So actually designing, like automatically designing orthodontic appliances from scans taken of people's teeth to efficiently move their teeth into better position. And if you know anything about orthodontics, it's not just aesthetics. It can actually like really
it's a lot. I spent a lot of time in the orthodontist when I was younger. That's for sure.
Designing materials that have certain properties, things like speech recognition, like being able to control computers or communicate using speech. That obviously helps people who have impairments, but can also just be a nice way to like take notes or think and be able to save your thoughts for later. There's all kinds of things. And then in the domain of some of these technologies that we're talking about, I mean, Chat GPT is really useful, I think, for like summarizing things. It can search. So like you can have like documents that have like very complicated language in them that would be like, even for an expert, would require a lot of like busy work to sort of find or like identify very specific ideas, and like it sort of does that.
I use it for that all the time. I use it as like a Google search.
Yeah.
And like I'll be playing a video game, and I'll be like, if it's like too complicated of a specific idea to type into Google, I'll ask ChatGPT, like, hey, how do you get the like double barrel shotgun in Remnant 2 if you're this far into the level and you didn't do this and whatnot? And it'll come through like compiling all this information from like Reddit and game like strategy guides and stuff, and it'll say, you have to go to like this boss and kill it in this certain way. I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
That's how you were so fast when you were getting me those guns. That's how you did it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then kind of like I was talking about before with the image generation stuff, all the kind of bits and pieces that you need to do this sort of text to image problem are used in all kinds of useful problems, detecting different things in images, classic deep learning, classifying images based on what's in them, identifying things in medical scans, and there's all the it's called generative AI, like the idea of training a model not just to find things, but like be able to generate examples of something that it understands. Like that has a use in just training models that can find things. So oftentimes, if
every medical field.
So like a model that say like not able to just identify like a cancer spot, but like be able to like just randomly generate realistic looking examples of cancer spots is probably going to work better than one that can only identify.
That would make sense. Totally.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of like nice real world, like real, like making people's lives better applications.
Yeah.
And stuff. It's sad to me when it like shifts from that into like replacing art, because to me that's kind of like a very uniquely human thing.
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
The thing I worry about with the using it in the medical field and stuff like that is I think it's gotten better over the past, like literally just the past couple weeks, but there was a period of time where Google for its like Google searches using AI
it's
as
got
like
that
a
Google
chatbot.
Assistant. And
for a while people would look stuff up and it would be like, it's very healthy to eat exactly 1 rock per day. And it's like, what? Or like sand is a part of a balanced healthy diet, because it was pulling stuff from like parody accounts and meme accounts and stuff.
So
and
it's
like
like filter out all the nonsense.
Well, hopefully, but it wasn't for a while. It was like Google was straight up telling people.
I've never messed around with that chat. I just but
it's just a Google search. It's not even a chat. It's just like
AI assisted though, right?
Yeah. But like if you were to go to Google and type in something in the search bar, it would come up with like that initial paragraph that's telling you that's all AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all AI.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about, was the chat that would come up was how to eat a rock every day and survive, or how to do this and do this and do this?
No, people would Google, just in the Google search, they would type in like, what is a healthy part of a balanced diet?
They were messing with it. They were trying to mess it up.
No. They were saying they looked up what is a healthy part of like a balanced dietitian, whatever.
And then the AI would say a rock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Okay.
Or like, is it safe to eat glue or something? And it'd be like some facetious like.
It would be like, yes,
recipe
you
for
should
eating
have
glue.
1 ounce of glue every day. It's like, what?
I feel like that's crazy that it would specify that though. You know, I feel like it'd get it mixed up with like you should have 1 ounce of something that's similar every day versus no, eat glue now.
Well, like I said, it's pulling all its information from so many parts of the internet, some of which are like parody accounts or or like satire. I don't know. I just worry about it like if it is informing doctors, it's like we have to make sure that it's pulling that information from verifiable
Hopefully we're not that
sources.
far into it yet.
Right, yeah.
Right. Every doctor I've gone to has been real good professional. They haven't told me to eat any rocks lately or wear socks while I swim. You know, nothing like that has happened. So hopefully that's the case.
Oh. Yeah, and then the other thing I think it would be super useful for is there was a show when I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. It was called Mega Man NT Warrior.
Ooh.
And it was like this, it was an anime, it was on Saturday mornings.
It was a Mega Man. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And it was set in this world where everybody had these little like personal assistants. Smartphones weren't invented yet, so it didn't look like a smartphone, but it was like this tablet phone looking thing, and it had this digital personal assistant that looked like a Mega Man or one of the other characters, and it would talk to them like a human, and you know it could tell you stories, or it could like talk with you about like the mega corporations after us, run down the hallway to the right, or whatever, you know, whatever was happening.
It's like their little slice of presents, you know. It's like, don't do this, don't do that.
Exactly. And I'm like, dude, it would be so cool, because now we're at the point where we have like a digital assistant in our phone, but it's really like a glorified Google search.
Yeah.
I think it would be so cool if we had like a genuinely intelligent AI in our phone. And I know there's so many like breach
with that?
breach of privacy with that, but I just think in my head it would be so cool to have like this assistant that was basically a person in your phone, and you could like talk to them and get like bounce ideas back and forth with them like they're a thing.
Totally.
Or even like not so much even bouncing ideas, but for me, because I kind of don't like the idea of like getting ideas from but just being able to give it commands to like do things.
Yes.
So like automating things that you do on your computer or your phone. And that's one thing that's gonna be here, if it's not here already, is
really
stuff. And to me, like that is sort of like a more ethical application too, because it's like you're using the reasoning power of the AI to
it's pre-existing. There's
commands
commands there that they can follow out,
right?
So David, I gotta ask, what kind of phone do you have? Are you an iPhone or Android?
Oh, Android. It's just like a super cheap
Dang
Android.
it, dude.
Yeah,
I was finger crossed you were not right.
No, he works in tech, of course he's gonna be Android.
I use Linux and Mac though. So
okay. So you're
on
not
your
just
phone?
run of the mill.
No, for
his computer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have a desktop that I have Linux on, and I use that unless I'm playing games.
Nice.
Right.
The only thing I thought of when we were talking about that whole phone thing was the fact that I could tell Siri you could say, "Hey Siri, Lumos," and that'll turn on your light, and then you can say, "Hey Siri, Knox," which will turn off your light.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Other than that,
cool.
I haven't found a very good use for it. So.
Well, you know what's crazy is I've tried doing things like I've been on the road and unable to like type on my phone, obviously. And so I'll hit the Google Assistant and I'll say, "Hey, take me to the nearest Fred Meyer or something."
Yeah.
And it can't do it. Like, or at least on mine, like it can't, like it gets confused.
Yeah, when I'm at work, dude, like I have my headphones in, and I'll like, whether it's you that text me or Leah that texts me or anybody, I have Beats headphones, which are totally compatible with iPhone. Some aren't. These are, and I can say, hey Siri, text wife, and I can, write out a message, or I can say, hey,
Right.
set a timer for this. So in that aspect,
Yeah, mine
it's
does
awesome.
that. Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where I say something, it's like, oh, you want to travel to Timbuktu on a Tuesday? No, I said I was. Where's the nearest burger spot? No,
Right.
doesn't work. Doesn't work. You can't do anything
Yeah.
about it.
For real.
I know Microsoft really got dragged for that recall or whatever it's called.
Oh, yep.
But to me,
I remember hearing about that.
That seems like actually potentially pretty useful. Like, okay, I'm using my computer, and then basically at any time, I can just ask a natural language question about something that I was doing at some point in the past. I can actually find it. Like that is very
that's
powerful.
cool.
Thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
and
like
you know,
where was I last Tuesday at 2
That
o'clock?
would be incredible. I would
Yeah,
love
and-
that. That's a
and,
great
like,
feature.
you're not asking it to like generate something.
No, you're just
new.
literally asking a date and a time where it had you doing something.
It's like just
Yeah.
basically a super duper powerful search and dispatch. on
Yeah,
your
Right.
computer.
That
like
would
that
be
to me
sweet.
seems really useful.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'd love that. Okay, so yeah, we've pretty much gotten through like all of the notes that I have. I have a video. I can't remember exactly why I bookmarked this specific
Oh, here we go.
spot
This
in the
is
video.
the best time to watch a video. When Spencer doesn't remember what happened, the best time. Come on, play it. Let's see what you got.
I love, so there's this YouTuber called Drew Gooden. I love him. I watch like literally every single video he puts out. I watch them without fail. And he did a fantastic video on AI. And I really truly recommend that everybody go watch it because it is so good and insightful. And there was some parts where I was like, oh yeah, that puts this thought that I had into words so much more eloquently than I could have done it. And he's just funny as hell. He's so funny. Him and Danny Gonzalez are just hilarious. But I'll play, I guess whatever it was.
Play, yeah. Don't even look. Just play it. That's where he's gonna win, dude.
Yeah.
Let
Let me hit the music here. Whoops, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Stop the music. Okay.
75-year-old grandpa will fall in love with the four-boobed lady he saw on Facebook, but most people aren't going to fall for this, especially younger generations. As they grow up with these things being so prevalent, they're naturally going to train their eyes to be able to spot the differences. When people ask what the point of any of this is, the dorks who defend it all tend to say the same thing. These are just tools to help anyone create art. Yeah, I want to push back on that a little bit. I am wholeheartedly for the increased accessibility of creative tools that help you take matters into your own hands. You want to make a short film? The camera on your cell phone is better than 90% of the cameras that humans use. You want to learn how to edit? There's thousands of free YouTube videos that'll show you how. You want to make music? You can buy a professional audio interface, workspace, and a handful of plugins made by some of the most talented artists in the world for less money than it would cost to rent a recording studio for one day. And all of that is fucking awesome. I feel so lucky to live at a time where you can essentially make whatever you want without having to cross the insurmountable barriers that people did in the past. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need an exorbitant amount of money. You can just make stuff and put it on the internet, and with a little bit of luck, people see it. And there's so many tools along the way that help you streamline the process of getting from an idea to a finished product. But at a certain point, if the tool is just doing everything for you, you are not an artist. You just described what you wanted to make and asked a computer to make it for you. You're also not learning anything this way. Part of what makes art special is that it's difficult to make, even with all the tools right in front of you. It takes practice, it takes skill, and every time you do it, you expand on that skill. Every song you hear, every movie you watch is the result of thousands of hours of trial and error. You can fail a million times and use that experience to finally succeed. Making a video using generative AI.
You see why I love this guy?
Without making video. It's not like you could type 500 sword
There's a
prompts
joy in
and then
learning,
take
right?
everything you've learned
Yeah.
to go
Like,
shoot
that's-
a movie. There's
people
zero
miss that.
correlation there. Generative AI is only about the end product,
Mhm.
but it
Yeah.
won't teach you anything about the process it would take to get there. And I think what these
You were
tech people
talking about
will
that
never
earlier,
understand
David.
is that finally figuring something out that you've been obsessing over, turning a blank Word document into multiple pages of something you're proud of is the fun part. That's what's rewarding about making stuff, is figuring it out on your own or with a group of people and getting to share in that feeling. Can AI tools help you figure out things faster? Sure, but it's not going to feel as rewarding. I understand how tempting a shortcut can be, especially when you go online and you see all these other people doing cool things and you're like, man, I'll never be that talented. It would take me like 10 years to learn how to make music like that. Okay, that's fine. What's the
Yep.
rush? Just start right now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about how long it's going to take. Just take the first step. How are you ever going to do something for 10 years if you won't even do it for one day? Maybe you won't be good at something the first time you do it. You probably won't. But every time you improve, that's something that you can feel proud of. That's something that you did. Call me stubborn, but I would rather make something shitty on my own than watch a computer make something good,
Amen.
right?
That's
Yeah,
Script
buddy.
For the end of a YouTube video. All right, folks, we've reached the end of this roller coaster ride of a video. If you survived my terrible jokes and questionable dance moves, you deserve a medal. Seriously, someone get this audience a medal. But hey, before you click away to watch cat videos, no judgment, I get it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button.
generic.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
You wouldn't want to miss
that's-
out on more chaotic content
hilarious.
like this, would you? And hey, if you have any suggestions for what ridiculousness I should attempt next, drop them in the comments below. I promise to consider them while I'm eating my 5th burrito today.
That
Thanks
was-
for sticking around, you legends.
that was
Until next
stupidly
time, stay
insightful.
awesome.
Right?
It's
Isn't it
well
so
said?
good?
I'm really surprised that I haven't seen that around
Yeah.
anywhere. I was really
Yes.
really surprised by that.
This is why I'm not too worried about it like taking over. Is like there's
Yeah.
people like this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's like a small fraction of people, even if it's like 5 out of every 100 people that feel this way, it's like
Yeah.
those are our people.
That'll still be
Right.
an army.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
And those people will be able to find each other and kind of keep doing what we're doing.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, that
Right.
was really well done. Kudos to
Is
that
it-
guy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Highly recommend. The whole video is like this. It's all so
Yeah.
insightful.
What's
and
his name?
some Drew
Goodwin.
Gooden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he's awesome. But he also brought it, David, you mentioned music earlier,
Mhm.
and Drew kind of shines a spotlight on here. This is really interesting. This will just be the last thing real quick. It's what people are doing, or really what Spotify is doing. He's talking about AI making music and how it all sounds the same. It's really eerie when you see it.
Wait, why do all these songs sound exactly the same? Who are
Oh,
any of
jeez.
these artists? Seems like kind of a weird coincidence that they're all just first name,
Oh.
last name. Their
Yeah.
profile photo
Crazy.
is the album artwork of one of their EPs. They have
Yep.
no bio and no links to any social media. Most of them didn't start uploading music until this year, and yet they've ended up in these extremely popular playlists created by Spotify themselves.
That's
What's going on
terrible.
with this guy's foot? There's something eerily non-human about these playlists, and some people have theorized that Spotify might be using AI to create a bunch of songs that they can package under random pseudonyms and then curate these into playlists that they push out onto all their users.
They have AI songs, they attribute them to people that don't exist, and this allows them to take royalties that would go to musicians and keep them to
Yeah.
themselves.
I mean, just look at the number of likes on all these. They can advertise these wherever they want, all over their app. Now, I want to stress there's currently no proof that Spotify's doing this. I'm not saying for a fact that they are, but it's not hard to understand hypothetically why they would. Spotify, like Netflix, is one of those companies that came in and disrupted the industry by offering a deal that seemed too good to be true, because it was. Wait, for a few dollars a month, I can get access to every song ever made or every movie ever made. How could that possibly be profitable for them? The secret is that it isn't profitable and never has been. But as long as you get in early enough to kill all your competition, establish market
That's
control,
great.
and raise a bunch of money from investors,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. At least not for a while. But now it's been a while, and Spotify's getting a little bit more desperate with each passing year. They tried dumping billions of dollars into exclusive podcasts, but ended up just losing a bunch of money and gave up on that. They tried selling a car accessory, but just ended up losing a bunch of money and gave up on that. And they lost even more money when they had to refund all the people who bought one just because because they got mad. Guys, relax. It was only $90 for a thing that doesn't work. And their new plan now is audiobooks, but I'm sure they'll just lose a bunch of money and give up on that because that's what they do. But Spotify's also in a tricky spot because even if you projected infinite growth and they became the only streaming service in the entire world, they'd still have to give up 70% of their revenue to the artists and record labels whose music is the foundation of their product. And that's where this conspiracy comes in. There's a finite pool of revenue every month that mostly gets redistributed back to artists. Well, what?
So basically, I'll just summarize because this goes on for a while.
Yeah.
He talks about his theory is that like he just said there's a finite pool of resources with the current like subscriber base, but they can, I guess, like cheat code themselves into getting infinite revenue if they have like bots that like spike up all these numbers.
Blank artists that are not actually attached to anybody other than themselves.
Yeah. And I think that's so interesting. I've never really looked too far into like the dead internet theory. Have you guys have you heard about this?
I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, I've heard about it, and I think it's more of a creepypasta than anything else. I mean,
yeah,
I don't like creepypasta. Okay,
yeah.
I'll say it right now. I don't want to hear it.
Well, it's not. I think it started as a bit of a creepypasta, but I think there is some truth to it where, like Drew Gooden goes and looks at Facebook, and Facebook is basically a dead platform nowadays where you have, these groups, and then within the groups, people are sharing like AI artwork, and then in the comments section, there's all these bots, like all of which are AI, like commenting and liking and spiking up all these numbers, and it makes you think like how much of the internet is just like AI bots. Like obviously we know the people we know they're not like AI or whatever, but in the background there, like how many like bot accounts or like AI accounts are just spiking numbers up through the roof. I think that's really interesting because it's kind of like I think Facebook is a good example of what happens when AI like cannibalizes itself, and it just like keeps sharing. Keeps resharing AI generated images and keeps re-commenting AI generated comments. It's like it's like watching an ant farm go crazy. It's like, what is happening here? I don't know. Have you thought about this in like your field of work, just the kind of like regurgitation or like the recycling of the AI stuff?
Yeah. I think for a lot of the stuff that we work on, or I've worked on, it's like we're training machine learning models on our own data, so it's not really a problem. And the models that are like sort of trained on the whole internet, they work well at this point. So
yeah,
like there might be problems in the future, but like the models that exist now, they're not going to get worse. Like those are discrete things that exist that we can go back to. As far as like the whole dead internet Facebook thing, I mean, I think these platforms are going to have to figure out how to deal with it. And I think they've been slow. They've been slow in dealing with it. Like Twitter, I generally like how Twitter's been under Musk, but like he obviously is some goofed up priorities for like not dealing with these extremely obvious
bot accounts,
bots and stuff. And I mean, like that, all that stuff is just going to turn people off, right? Like, I think I'm usually looking for excuses to not use social media, and if the platform's just going to go to shit, then I'm going to get off of it, right? I mean, I don't really use Facebook anymore except for keeping in contact with a couple family members and friends. I don't personally see a lot of the AI art stuff on my Facebook timeline, but I mean, it's like it is kind of like a dead platform to me.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
But I think people have the right incentives, right? I think people like to think of social media as like really evil, but I think there are incentives for these social media platforms to like make them a place where people want to spend time and have interactions and stuff with people. So like if it gets too bad, they're gonna fix it.
Right. Yeah, I feel kind of the same way about social media. Like I have like personal social media accounts, but I haven't used them in like years. the only social media account I've used is the Fantasy Files one, just for like talking about books and like promoting our content and stuff. And I think that's been the best thing,
dude.
Best thing for me.
Yep.
And I know Gabe is off of social media.
Yep. I was in my sophomore year of high school when I just completely gave up on all social media. It was all garbage. Every time that something that happened, especially when you're in high school, dude, or you're younger teenager, right? You got a bunch of friends. There's stuff going on. There's drama. It was just a mess, and I couldn't stand the way that I felt scrolling through and looking at something had said, somebody had said, and then seeing responses and this and that, and I was like, dude, I just can't do this. Like, it's not part, and that's part of the reason why I didn't graduate from high school.
Because you got out off of social media?
No, well, I was just so wrapped up in the drama. It was part of where I was, and I tried to get away from it, but I couldn't. Like, it was just all there. There were fights. There was drama between, guys and girls, and this person didn't like this person, and I was just sick and tired of it, dude. It was garbage. The whole thing was garbage. Man, and I've never had anything since then. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Snapchat, nothing. I'm done with it.
Yeah, we got Facebook, or at least Facebook became like very popular for my age group around like end of my junior year and into my senior year. So it hadn't become at all what it is today. And we had like MySpace, but people mostly used MySpace as like an instant messenger
I don't even
app.
remember MySpace, dude.
Yeah, I know. Young one. But yeah, I was so glad. I look at Twitter nowadays and even like Facebook or whatever, and watching shows like like Sex Education or Euphoria, where people are using social media for the harm of others. And I'm like, dude, I'm so glad
it's a weapon, dude. It's a weapon.
I'm so glad we didn't have it like that when I was in high school, and like weaponizing, like, taking a video of someone at a party and like putting it up on Facebook for everyone to see. Like,
dude, that's what happened. That's what happened. That's literally why I didn't like it. You could take a picture of somebody somewhere, and you could turn it into a malice weapon, something that would hurt somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. Well, as we wrap up here, David, was there any final thoughts from you on the whole AI thing? Anything we didn't get to talk to that you'd like to talk about real quick?
I don't think so. I think we got all the main points.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all kind of on the same page about this, and it's kind of fun to find more people who feel the same way, because sometimes it seems kind of lonely.
Kind of daunting. Yeah, totally, dude.
But I mean, I would just encourage everybody, who's listening to this. It's like, find your people. Like, if you don't like the idea of using AI, like, there's other people who agree.
Yep.
On the other hand, like, if you kind of disagree with us and you think that AI is totally fine, maybe like find a group of people who feel that way, and like, don't harass people who don't like AI.
Right.
Amen. Amen to that.
Like, let's just, we can make groups kind of around shared
we can be cordial. We don't have to we don't have to attack anybody. That's for sure.
And we can get along and have friendly debate and discussion about it too.
Yeah.
So,
well said.
But I mean, at the same time, I would encourage people, like, if you're using AI just because you feel like, oh, like, I'm not a creative person, or I couldn't ever do that. I mean, just try it. It's really fun. And we're in the golden age, like we said, of
that's right.
Free resources for doing any kind of creative work that you want. It's really incredible, and I hate to see that. I feel like we just came into that era, as AI came in.
Totally.
And it makes me sad. So
right. Yeah, like like I when we started the podcast, we were initially like hitting record and immediately going into the podcast and trying to do like one
the first,
whole perfect
6
take.
Episodes were a mess.
Yeah.
A nightmare.
Yeah, because I was like, and we would literally like do the outro and then hit stop.
I won't even
record
go
as
and
fast
watch
as we
them
could.
because I'm so embarrassed. I won't even
Right.
try it. I'm staying
Right.
away from that stuff.
Yeah, and initially I was like, I can't, there's no way I could possibly figure out video editing. There's no way I could do it. Like we just have to do like the simplest podcast possible. But then as we got going, I was like, but I want to know how to do this stuff. And it took me, you know, going through an uncomfortable period of time where I was like failing at video editing. Like some of our earliest videos, for some reason, every time there was a cut, there was like this big black bar that would appear across the screen at the top. And I was just like, I don't know what to do about it. And so I just like kept going. And it took me working through that and doing this for 3 years now to where I can put a pretty damn good YouTube video together through my editing.
I want to preface this too, is that since we started this podcast, Spencer has been the sole editor. He has done, and mind you, like I get how that sounds. I'm a shitty person. I get it. I understand. Right? I should be doing more.
You're fine.
But no, I know, and I know that. And you, dude, you've been just on it. You've been so good at it, and you've gotten so much better. And when you showed me that, the edit for, I think it was either one of our like anniversary episodes or something else, where it was. I was just blown away, dude. It was like I couldn't even imagine that, 2 years ago. Like, no way that was possible.
Yeah, and it's been fun to learn. Like it's like after that initial like difficult period, it was started to be like, oh, I can do that. What
like
else can I do?
A little bit of
this?
a challenge. You're like, okay, I need to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's YouTube videos out there that you can watch for any kind of art. Like I used to watch videos on how to paint Warhammer figurines, and that's how I learned how to paint them. And so it's like we, like Drew Gooden said, and like everybody else here has said, like we have so many opportunities now to learn this stuff more than we ever have before, and it's kind of sad to see AI taking that over. And I don't want to repeat all the talking points from earlier, but I second it for sure. Jared says, so I just joined. What is the conversation? Everyone's take on it. My friend, you are about 2 hours too late, my friend.
I would love to explain it to you, but I gotta go to work tomorrow, dude.
Yeah, we are about to get out of here, but if you want to rewind this, you can hear everybody's take on AI for sure. It's been a great discussion, so I highly recommend rewinding and checking it out. And then also as we get out of here, like again, highly recommend Drew Gooden's video. I cannot recommend his channel enough. Like he does so many videos like that. He had this one video about Star Wars recently. It's like 3 or 4 videos back, and I have never like recommended a video so highly to so many people because he breaks down like what's happening with Star Wars, and it is such a nuanced and brilliant take on the whole thing. I seriously, please watch it. Please watch it.
Awesome.
It is so good, but yeah, can't recommend his channel. He doesn't need a promotion for me. He's got like 6 million subscribers.
Hey, dude, you love what you love, man. That's how that works.
For sure.
How that works.
So yeah, just highly recommend that. But David, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for going live with us for about 2 hours now, and then like 30 minutes backstage. It's been great to talk to you. Yeah, it's been cool. Initially, when I saw you on the Periapsis Press video you guys did, I was just like, I just have a feeling I want to talk to him, and I was absolutely right.
You're
gotta trust my gut on those kind of things. Also, you mentioned that you have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Otherwise, I would have promoted it at the beginning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just called David Roome. I probably need to come up with a better name for it at some point. But, I do some different things on there, mainly relating to my game development project and my other programming projects. So I have little trailers and snippets and stuff that I'm just learning video editing and stuff too.
Yeah.
And then I do programming live streams. Usually I do like 1 or 2 a week. The last couple of weeks I've been busy with some other stuff, so I haven't done one recently. But yeah, I just work on my project live. Some people usually stop by, hang out a little bit. It's just kind of fun. It's a nice way for me to like stay focused and
Yeah,
work on
totally.
something and get
Well,
something done.
I was gonna ask, so you do that? You said twice a week.
Uh, one
I would love
one
to watch. I would love to watch a game editing or game programming live stream. I
yeah,
would be
yeah.
there for that.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Usually I do them so it might be a little bit of a
I
time
know it
zone conflict.
changes. Yeah, it changes.
Yeah, usually I start like around 9:30 or 9:45 or 10 Central. It's usually when I
Okay.
get to it. I tend to work on
Sweet.
stuff pretty late,
Awesome.
but I leave them all up and you can watch them.
Okay.
So
Cool.
those are all just pre-recorded stuff, but then there's a ton of live streams as well.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, I would
yeah.
love to watch a live stream of that. It'd be so cool.
Yep. And then
I would
Katie and I do
totally be
some
there.
Lego building streams sometimes too. So
Nice. I can see
That's
that.
cool.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
so we do, Katie has her stuff. She talks more about books and fiction and
Yeah.
stuff on the Periapsis Press channel. Sometimes I join her over there to talk about things.
Yep.
And then we do some Lego building there, and then some Lego building that we've done on my channel just to kind of get some
Totally.
of her audience over there. So we built the
Nice.
new Lego Galaxy Explorer because my game and channel is kind of dedicated to my sci-fi
Yeah.
stuff. So it was the Galaxy Explorer was kind of on theme for that more.
No,
so.
that's awesome, man.
That's cool.
super cool.
Do you ever do model kits? Sorry, Gabe.
No, you're good.
No. So I've done some Gundam like Gun Plus stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that might be something. I actually have a bunch of them, so I should actually pick that up. Again, would be kind of fun.
That'd be cool.
And then I'd like to. I'm trying to find a good format for my live streams. I sometimes try to do like little project updates where I show more different aspects of my project and what I'm working on. Lately, I've just been doing more programming live streams, but I'm still kind of trying to find the right format. So
Yep.
Cool.
But it's just fun.
if-
Kind of more of a video diary than
Totally.
anything else.
No,
I don't have a lot
yeah,
of
I think
viewers,
that's
but
awesome, dude. I'm
it's
actually
fun.
really stoked about that because you're the first person that I've, well, I guess ever known of. I'm sure there's more, but ever seen, because I really love the thought of programming. I really like
yeah.
the thought of behind the scenes stuff, and I've never done it. I've just always fantasized about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I'll be really stoked to watch you do some stuff.
So one thing that you might want to check out, actually, if you're kind of interested in learning programming,
I'm super interested.
So most of the stuff that I do is kind of related to my game programming project, and then so to kind of make a long story short, the game project, I'm creating the content in a very unique way. So it's like a space combat game, but actually all of the ships and like all the 3D models that I'm using in my game, I actually am making with code.
Oh, cool.
So that's a lot of what I do.
Cool.
Nice.
So, but I have another series that I started back in May. I think I did 2 or 3 episodes of, and I need to finish, which is like building a like retro sort of like text-based game.
Oh, awesome.
Completely
interesting.
from scratch.
You mean text-based like the old, like, do you walk
Oregon
into the woods
Trail.
or do you not?
Yes. So
That kind of text game? Okay,
it's
those
actually
are awesome,
like,
dude.
It is actually like Oregon Trail. So if you and that is interesting because my other project, it's like, I'd worked on it tons before live streaming. I work on it a lot when I'm not live streaming. But the it's like a sci-fi game that's sort of based on like the old version of Oregon Trail that was pure text.
I remember
that.
I remember.
So
I remember playing it, I guess I should say.
So
I'm not quite that old.
So that and I think I have a playlist for that. I have a playlist for the making an Oregon Trail inspired text-based sci-fi fantasy survival game. I tried to put as many keywords in there as I could.
Sweet.
And that is all of the code in that is being done in the live stream. So if you watch those live streams, you'll see everything.
That's
everything
awesome. That's so cool. I'm stoked about that. I'm gonna watch them. That's freaking incredible.
Yep, and I'm using Python, so that's not like if you were actually writing for an old platform, you wouldn't do that. But I'm kind of writing it in a simple way towards maybe the end of even porting it back to an old system at some point.
Cool.
So
yeah, the only when I was younger, we had Minecraft servers, right? And I could code, like, I realize it's very minimal, very small stuff, but you get behind the scenes and start coding a little bit of text that changes the world.
Yep.
And you realize like, wow, those 3 words just made this completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was really young, my mom was like a website developer, and
Yeah,
she
your mom was
taught me.
Microsoft, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she taught me like a little bit of HTML.
Like mine was like JavaScript, I think. That's what my
Yeah.
prep was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there and just like never put them like on the internet, but I made like all these websites just to
it's little
like
processes,
make
little commands, you know?
Yeah, I was so impressed when I could like make a button and have it take me to like another page. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's cool, man.
But awesome. Yeah, everybody go check out David's channel. That's just its name, David Roome. And then check out the Drew Gooden videos. Gabe and I will be back next week for our patrons. We'll be doing a Creators Corner episode. So definitely check that out if you're a patron at the Mistborn tier. And it'll be out a couple weeks later. And I think the video that'll be out for YouTube this next week is the second Gentleman Bastards book. Yeah,
nice.
So I need to get those out.
Nice.
And then you guys will get a Potter Watch after that, our most recent Potter Watch. And then coming up in just a couple weeks is our Way of Kings episode, the first step into Stormlight Archive. So I'm super excited for that. You if you can support us on Patreon, come join us for that live Patreon episode, because that is going to be really interesting. That's going to be really, really fun. Other than that, I don't think I have any other updates. Although I did put out a couple of videos recently, one of which was the I Have a Confession video. And this was so funny because it was Gabe, the one where I was like,
oh, yeah, good. I'm glad you clipped it and made it its own thing. That's good.
But the title of the video is just I Have a Confession, period. And the thumbnail is just me going,
come on now, dude.
No, the thumbnail is just me going like this, like something serious had happened.
Yeah.
And it was the most clickbaity thing I've ever done. But I think it's got like 216 views now.
That's a good one, man. That was a genuine from the soul reaction when you told me that. I couldn't have faked that if I tried.
Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you next week on Patreon or in the YouTube video that gets posted then. And then on August 10th, as far as I'm aware, August 10th, I believe, is a Saturday, and we will be doing our 1,000 subscriber live stream. And there's going to be a few guests that come on for that, including Holly Tinsley, Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, several others that you guys. RJ is at a concert that day. I was super bummed. Yeah. But that's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next one.
Yep.
Bye.
Peace.